because I've watched 2 documentaries about her, Whitney Houston. And I'm curious on that movie if that was a special experience. Was she nervous?
She's really smart. That was a movie I probably should have directed. I just thought somebody could do a better job. But he was uncomfortable with her. She was my choice. So I was the actor. I produced it. I picked her.
So you probably have the same fascination I have with her.
Listen, the first girl I thought was pretty was Diana Ross. I saw her on Ed Sullivan's show and I thought, fuck yes.
Let's go.
That's pretty. And I'm like 10 years old. I know what pretty is.
Yeah.
I loved her. So it's not like this giant mystery. So I knew that she should be the one. So in producing it, I produced Whitney in the movie, meaning I put her there. I didn't let the director, well, I'm directing the movie, I'll decide who plays her. I said, no, she's in the movie. You can direct this movie. It's a Lawrence Kasdan script. Just try to stick with it. There was a flaw in that script, and even Larry talked about it, and I talked about it. And about 3 weeks before the movie started, remember, it's 17 years old. It's the first script that he'd ever sold. So it'd been around for 17 years.
Really?
Yes.
Wait. Bodyguard's the first script that Lawrence Kasdan sold. Really?
Right. And Sidney Pollack was going to make it. Somehow it fell through the cracks. He goes on to write Raiders of the Lost Ark, Empire Strikes Back, Body Heat, Silverado. But that was the first one. So I kind of asked him about it. He goes, yeah, I did this movie. And the way he talks is always he's so distinct. And I said, well, I want to read it. And so I read it, and I thought, I'm going to make this, Larry. I wanted him to direct it, but I think his mind was somewhere else, and I didn't think I should. I just thought somebody can do it better than me. But I really knew who I wanted. There was a moment where she trusted me. And as I looked at her, and I could see the director was afraid of her, and he was shooting her late in the day when he just didn't want to get to her, would rather shoot her walking than talking.
He was nervous he couldn't get out of her.
I started to guide her. And I wasn't trying to usurp my director, but I had made a promise to her, not to fucking him.
Yeah.
For sure.
And to the movie.
And as a scene partner,
That's right.
You want to lift.
And then editorially, we had a real problem. That movie was not testing high. It was testing in the 60s.
No way.
And I had promised Whitney that she'd be good in it. So now we're sitting in Warner Brothers. And have you ever been in that round room at Warner Brothers where they talk to you?
Yeah.
So I'm in that room with Terry Simmel and Bob Daly, and the director's there, and it goes, well, I guess this is as good as the movie's going to get. It says out of 69. I thought, no. And everybody was like, what? And I said, we need to put about 15 minutes back in this movie. Kevin, I hardly believe this is a problem. This movie's getting shorter and you want to make it longer. And I said, yeah. I said, I'd like to put 15 minutes back in this movie. I said, because I'm going to take out about, I can remember this to this day, I'm going to take out 28 minutes. Well, how are you going to do that? I said, about 15 seconds at a time, I imagine. Because we're not going to lose any scenes. We're going to put back in scenes. He says, well, I don't think you'll be able to do it. I said, watch me. So I went home, and I remember I sat in my bed for 2 days of the weekend looking at the numbers.
Just writing down time code?
Yeah, cut this, cut that, start here, cut this, cut that. And came out to 28 minutes.
No way. That's freaky.
It did. And we barely got out of Dodge, and that movie went up. Tested a lot higher. I'd made a promise to Clive Davis that Whitney would be good. I made a promise to her.
Clive was managing her?
Yes. And we got it. Larry actually went in with me, but I worked this thing, and I think we barely got out of Dodge, but we had this movie that worked. And that was my promise to her. She's always going to love me in the song. I was always going to keep my promise to her.
A, did you sense there was a ton of pain there? And B, did it break your heart?
No, but I eulogized her, and I didn't want to. When she passed away, there was a steady drumbeat to hear. You know, she was such a big personality that everybody was going on the air talking. That was not my first instinct. Even Arnold was, after about 5 or 6 days, he goes, Kevin, you need to say something.
You're seeing people capitalize on it,
That's
which
right.
is gross. And yet you are close enough that it would seem crazy you didn't. So you're in a very weird spot.
Arnold tried to explain that to me. And then the BET Award said, well, would you come and give her an award at least and talk? And I said to Arnold, well, how long is that? And he goes, well, it'll be 2 minutes. I said, I can't do it. Now there was this like, where is he? But about 2 days later, I get this call, and it was Dionne Warwick. And she was putting together the memorial. And she calls me and she said, Kevin, I'm putting this thing. I said, yes.
Yeah.
The exact thing I didn't want to do, I just said yes. I could feel the weight on her. Now it shifted to me. What am I to say about this little girl? and went back to that church in Newark, and it was filled. It was electric. There was 2 bands playing. The church was alive. It was like boom, and there was a bunch of people. And I had been working on this speech. I talked to a friend of mine, Army, and we'd both written down notes about it, and I tried to compile everything I wanted to do and finally crafted this speech. Now I'm in there, and I'm thinking, I really stuck out.
Sure.
And I'm sitting in this row, and somebody said, CNN's here. I go, CNN's here. And they go, yeah, they wouldn't mind if your remarks were kept shorter because they're going to have commercials. And I said, they can get over that. They can play the commercial while I'm talking. I don't care. But I've come here when I didn't want to speak. I didn't want to do 2 minutes. And I crafted this speech. I was writing on the plane. I was writing for a week. And I look back and I see Oprah and Diane Sawyer. And I swear to God, I must have been like 13 years old. I said, would you do my speech for me? I didn't feel like I was the right guy to go up there, but I did. And there were some people that really wanted to speak, and they're kind of staring daggers at me. What was I going to say? And I started, and about 17 minutes later, I was done.
Wow. And you said everything
that I felt I needed to say.
I watch those docs and I think, the talent is so once in a generation, but the fucking work ethic. When she was juggling the full-blown addiction and still doing the shows, she was a force of nature. I can't help but be enamored by the whole thing.
It was a moment where I knew when Whitney came, I said, look, you can't have an entourage, but I'm going to take care of you. If there's a person important to you, turned out to be Robin Crawford, I said, let's have Robin with you. But I said, I don't have one, you're not going to have one. And that's how we started. And I knew that it would never be the same for her when she left me. And I purposely wasn't a pen pal to her, but there was a couple moments where somebody said to me, would you write her, please? I did.
You must have made her feel really safe. That's what the entourage is all about. I mean, there's a lot of fear. And
I don't know what it was, but we had a moment, and I realized that the world had a higher idea of who we were. So I basically embraced it. I was her imaginary bodyguard.
Yeah. It's so sweet. It works on all these levels. And I think there was probably real things that were happening that really helped in what we ended up seeing. You were her bodyguard. I mean, it's not even metaphorical. Okay. Quickly, listen, I'm going to say this as someone who's directed something that overperformed, and I've directed something that's underperformed. And it's a very unique experience. To go from mega hit Behind Your Wildest Dreams to do The Postman, and it didn't do as well financially as I imagine you hoped, and then to do Open Range again, and then be right back in the swing of things where it overperforms and it's critically acclaimed. When you're evaluating that phase, I can already tell from every story you've told me, you're very big on intuition.